Hey, hotties, we have way more for you over on the Hot Young Designers Club blog.
It's kind of like having an internet home base that we've been wanting to start.
Yeah, we're over there doing designer features, sharing industry news, and some business updates.
We've always wanted to be able to share our inspiration, so we needed a long form place to do it, and now we have it.
You got it. So head to hotyoungdesignersclub.com and check out the blog. Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Shaun Surha, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young,
but we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club.
Hey, Shaun.
What's up, Rebecca?
Happy November.
Oh, yeah, we just passed spooky season, and now we're on to turkey season.
It's 2026. Yeah, I know we say this all the time, but like really this last bit of year is just hurtling past.
You're in like warp speed to get there.
Maybe it's because we're recording this in the past, like
but also we have there's a lot as we head into the end of the year. And I feel like that's what makes it go by fast for me is like vacations and traveling and holidays and family and buttoning stuff up for people. It's like, oh yeah, I don't want to carry that over to next year. So it makes me do more.
Well, and there is like end of year wrap up stuff that is like has to be done.
It's like a real thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're listening to this, you hopefully know who our new president is. We don't know yet. So we're just still here in denial.
Wait, what day is election day?
The 5th, right?
Oh, yeah. Ooh.
I know.
Ooh.
Don't tell us, you guys.
Spoiler alert. I'm still on last season. Oh, man. Okay, well, yeah, that's going to be a surprise and a half for sure.
Hopefully a delight. Okay, so what do we want to dig into a little bit? Little housekeeping.
Yes.
We want to remind you guys about our freshly-ish launched blog.
I know. I feel like we are definitely, you guys know we're always listening, but we would definitely love to hear your ideas of where you would like maybe a little bit more long form written content about topics that apply to designers. We have some good reminders in there about charging for consultations and like disclosures for design drawings. So we're just taking stuff that it's a little bit hard to absorb sometimes just on the show and listening to the podcast. And sometimes you need somewhere else to go and listen to things later or write things down. So it's going on the blog.
Yeah. And if you have any ideas that you would like us to tackle, we are all ears.
Absolutely. And we have some beautiful designer features that are being shared over there from hotties who are listening and sharing their projects. So you can check out the designer features on the blog. And at the bottom of the designer feature pages is a link where you can submit your own project to us as well.
Yeah. So it's good to get your stuff out there. It's good for your SEO and your website. So we love seeing that and sharing what you guys are doing.
Yes.
And then other new things, I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast yet, but we launched a new product in the shop, a Interior Design Client Questionnaire.
Yes.
Which kind of excited about.
We waited too long to do that.
I know. Kind of excited that we finished it. But well, because partly like we have things that we're using in our own businesses, but when we collaborate together, like we just level up the ideas and combine ideas and then like create like something better than we could have on our own.
Yeah, it's like the hive mind of it all is like, wouldn't it be great if it also did this? And oh, I don't really like how that works on mine. What if we try something different? So I feel like that's been the value of working off of these for years and building them. And so yeah, it's like 100 questions. It's more than 100 questions.
Oh, okay. Yes. But just so you know, we created it so they're in sections that you can just chunk off.
Yeah.
So like if you're not doing a kitchen,
one by one to edit it. Yes.
Yeah. If you're not doing the kitchen, you just delete the section, one click, it's gone. So
Same thing for bathroom, if it's no bathroom
yeah.
or whatever. You can
So we kind of did the most.
Yeah, we made it because our feedback on some of our own previous questionnaires that we were using for Studio Plum and Renstead Interiors was, oh, this is getting kind of annoying. And we were using stuff in Dubsado, which we still use Dubsado for a lot, but this is built in Google Forms. So it kind of already translates a lot with the other Google documents that we've created. Like if you've bought our furnishing budget calculator, like that's in a Google as well. So this makes it a little bit easier for us. And we broke it up across like 11 categories. So it's easy to talk about just the client and get their info or just how they feel about like their dining room. And you can really divide up per project if you want to. You don't have to use the same 100 plus questions for every scale of
No,
project.
I mean, you can edit the questions. And one thing that was always kind of annoying, and I'm in my own questionnaires, is I was realizing, like, I was asking questions that I was realizing clients didn't know. So, like, even just like, what finishes do you prefer? Brass, oil red bronze, black, like all the different finishes. Clients actually don't know the difference between bronze and brass a lot of the time.
Correct.
So we put little images and we made sure they were able to be used and for a few different areas. So like cuz I think designers tend to get a little bit technical and jargony, like even
Yeah.
like an alcove, do you want an alcove tub or a freestanding? A lot of people don't know what that
I have
means.
no clue. They're like, I just want a tub. Like,
And so, like, we do, in my design to go work that I do with Happy Hour, a lot of times we have a questionnaire that's similar that we will be updating to match this one. But we would get clients that would give answers like they're trying to like have decisions made, and then it would take us in a wrong direction. And they're like, "Oh no, I didn't really know what that meant, so I just clicked something." So there's pictures. So there's
yeah.
easy to use pictures that are included with a lot of the questions where we thought it made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. We have them in there for like
Faucets,
cabinet face, just to get the discussion moving of like, here's a couple different cabinet face styles. Let's
shower
just,
parts. No one ever knows what a handheld sprayer is for some reason. It's just stuff that I kind of take for granted of knowing.
yeah. I mean, we have a whole language we've built. So this makes it a little bit easier to translate it to clients and also not give them like 100 things they have to Google while
Right.
while they're doing a questionnaire. Now they have to Google a bunch of other things to answer it. Like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah. So getting all that kind of stuff just in one place and then you can hit the ground running. And I was
Agreed.
also thinking like some clients I could see doing the questionnaire with them where we're chatting and I'm filling stuff out. So if I don't think they're going to be the type to want to do a lot of homework.
I mean, don't sign me up for that, but
Well, a lot of the questions I was already asking, they just weren't getting compiled in like
yeah, you're
a
like putting them in like your iPad or something, and
yeah,
it's not getting documented for the record somewhere.
concisely in one place.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
check that out.
Shop.
Shop.
Hot Young Designers.
There we go.
Yeah. Shop.hotyoungdesignersclub.com. It's on the homepage right now. Get your life.
And I don't know if we want to say this, but there may or may not be things discounted around certain holidays.
Surprise!
Check back.
A revolutionary
We're gonna
idea on its
we
way.
we might be the only website to be doing it, but
You heard it here first, y'all. Innovative marketing at its best from the Hot
That's
Young
us.
Designers Club. All right. Should we head into it? Not to make it awkward with an awkward transition, but we're talking about awkward money conversations today.
We don't have to make it weird.
I mean, I already did. Too late.
You made it weird. Well, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of us have money stories that we live with in our own minds based on our lives and pasts and whatever childhood trauma we may carry.
Yes.
And we get into that with our clients. And this is a very financially driven role we're in.
It's all
all-
time and money is what we're dealing with for people. So
And time
yeah,
is money. So it's all money.
it's all money.
So let's get into it. We just wanted to talk a little bit about some practices, some ways that maybe we've handled things. And like, I, for one, have gotten a lot more comfortable having money conversations and making them less awkward.
I've seen a difference in you, especially in this last year, even.
Yeah. I mean, it helps when clients aren't as stressed about every single dollar, but they still have budgets. So
Yes, they do.
everyone does. Okay, so where should we start?
I mean, I guess the first part for me is like the initial awkwardness of them having to tell me numbers and then me sharing numbers. That's the part that I'm like trying not to have a conversation about anymore. I think you do the same thing. Like, we've dispelled some of the awkwardness that I used to experience like very early in my business by having clients fill stuff in the inquiry form on my website, and like they have a chance to do it where they're not pressured by me and I'm not asking, like they're not hearing anything directly from me. So I got rid of that because it used to be something that I wouldn't
Like when you
ask a
didn't know
lot.
them.
Well, but even like in the first years of my business, I wouldn't ask a lot of questions in the form because it was like, oh, I don't want to scare anybody away. Don't ask them anything. But then I'm then on the phone finding out, oh, this person has a $200 budget. Like, what? Like, I can't help you. So that awkwardness is gone now because I ask for some of their budget, or if, some of whatever they number they have in mind, I want them to share somewhat early before there's like a me pressure. So the inquiry form helps. And then my investment guide goes out to them and it tells them what they can expect to be spending like with me. So then there's less awkwardness about, oh, how much does this guy cost on like a phone call or something.
Right. Yeah, we still do that a little bit differently. I don't ask in my form anything. I have my investment guide as a lead generator that people can download right away.
Right.
So, but that does have dollars in it. So it does definitely help people get like an idea of what you're going to get for $200. Just not a lot.
Yeah, you can get a half-hour consult. Like,
Right. But I don't know. I still like to have calls with people because I personally have offerings for a few different price points. That is going to be highly personal for every designer.
right.
What you want to do, like I still like taking one-off consultations and I still do them pretty regularly. So, and that's I don't really see that changing.
Yeah.
Like that might be all that I do, honestly, like down the road. So, I can talk to somebody and get a feel for like, okay, are we just moving into I'll just come and give you some ideas for an hour, or is this a bigger project that you need help with? And I can usually vet that in that call, but I can point them somewhere instead of sending them on their way. But for like
Yeah.
you don't want to do as many one-off consultations. Like you do want to get rid of tire kickers.
Yeah, I still do that. Even when I'm like in my head going, "Oh, I wish I had more." I'm like, "No, you don't." Cuz I don't.
Well, you
I
have
did
to like it.
I know, and like I went to every once in a while I have a really good one where I think part of it is that I really sometimes you really like the person, so then that makes the consult that much better. But yeah, sometimes on the standalones I'm like, "Ugh, that took me away from my office for like 3 hours total from drive there, drive back, whatever." But I think that's like the initial awkwardness you get past by having something like that in place where there's like no pressure on me. They have to do the legwork at first. They have to pick a time to talk. They schedule it out. Like the initial awkwardness of like the investment in design is sort of out there. I do have
I
some prices for like my consults and stuff is listed on my website. So if they're wondering like how much
Yeah.
is this guy, they can see what the like very entry level costs.
I do. Yeah. So we both have some sort of numbers that people can see without talking to us,
Right.
which I think is helpful. And that is like the first, I guess, barrier against the awkward conversation
Yeah.
where people are really just like, I just want to know. Like and if they really think it's $50, like, I don't think most people think that anymore, but maybe they're just not getting as far as a call with me.
Yeah. Yeah. They
So
like
that's
don't
great.
get there. which I'm okay with.
Yeah. So I think having that initial kind of filter and but honestly, it's helping the person. Like it's not just this protective boundary that we're being stern about. Like that's one way of looking at it, but another way is it's kind and giving someone information so they can screen themselves. Like,
I never want to be embarrassed. Like,
no.
you know how you like walk into
A store with no price tag or restaurant with no price on the
I
menu? Like,
know. Excuse me, what's the market price of the Wagyu today? Like, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. So that's like a
it's
awkward
totally
yeah, and I don't wanna create that for the work that I'm doing.
which is what I think people assume as well, and if that's not actually true, where, like, they could work with us on a designer on call level or a consultation or whatever,
Yeah,
they can probably afford that, so why not let them know you do have a service level that will be helpful?
agreed. So that's like the first probably the first level of awkwardness for something like this,
Screen it out, yeah.
screening it out, and then, like, recently, I still have I mean, this just keeps coming up, but I do think that everybody has a very skewed perspective on what things cost still in general. For remodeling or furniture or coffee or cars or all of it, the last 5 years have been a wild ride.
Everybody, including us.
Yes.
Yeah, like, I don't have the answers, and I still
No.
find myself, yeah, having inflation mental adjustments, whatever that's called.
Yeah. When 3 people go to Del Taco and it's $50, like, "What? Excuse me?" Like,
Yeah, or I
yes.
was, like, trying to buy a car, and I couldn't find one that I really wanted for under 90, like, what in the hell?
Yeah. Once upon a time, a luxury car was like 60,000.
Yeah.
Like any just like a decent not even like a Mercedes level. Like
Yeah, like a
now that's like 100
Lexus
grand.
or yeah.
Like
At least. No, like, at least. So, there's like, I keep stumbling into little pockets of things of like, "Oh, I haven't experienced this yet in the last 5 years." So, that's definitely happening with clients or new
mhm.
people buying new homes or needing to get something done.
Agreed. I think the biggest part now is like on a discovery call. If you guys go back to our very early episodes, you'll hear during these conversations where it was like a real struggle for me, even though I had worked in banking and finance for a long time. But now when people say, "Oh, this is what we're thinking," I'm like, "No, that that's not gonna be even part of it, like, that's gonna be higher," and I'm not trying to unsell people from it, but, I feel like I'm not doing a service to people if I'm not giving them something realistic up front anymore, where they're like, "We're gonna remodel the kitchen," and I'm like, "Okay, realistically, we're talking about a six-figure project. I just wanna let you know, like, you could probably do something less than that, but you're gonna be
But
DIYing a
we're not
lot
doing it
or but,
together.
like, yeah, like, I'm not doing that with you. Like, a
Yeah.
typical project for us is already gonna be for a kitchen remodel or something major like that. We're for sure in 6 figures. I don't even know what you want to do yet.
Yeah, I
And
mean, a
so
bathroom's hard to do without getting close to that.
like, yeah, like, and I don't feel like regionally we're that far off from that stuff anymore. So that part is I would say it's probably more awkward for them because I had one with a couple. I don't know if I told you this. This was recent. This was in the last like 6 weeks or so. And it was a younger couple who the mom owns the main like front house, but she's building an ADU behind it for her to like use as like her retirement spot. So that way her her child and their spouse can like start a family and take over the main house and redo it and make it theirs and it's their home for their family, which is lovely. But when we started unraveling the list of things that they were trying to accomplish, like replacing all the windows, remodeling both bathrooms, doing the kitchen, updating the fireplace, and they're just like, and you want to do this for how much? And I think it was like less than 200,000. And I was just like, y'all, this is like a decade or more's worth of projects you're describing if you wanna go at that pace with that budget, and I really just need if parents could stop telling their kids how
Oh
much stuff is
god.
supposed to cost, like, if they could just politely STFU in the corner, please, that would be really appreciated.
Or, like, I'm in
Like,
this big community moms group where people, like, ask these kinds of questions and, "Well, I got my kitchen remodel in 2012." "'Kay, girl, like, just get out of here,
just
like,
leave.
leave the chat, like,
You need to go.
you're not relevant." Like, that's just actually kinda mean.
It's just like, we're nowhere near that stuff anymore, but I've had that happen on that one. It was like, "Oh, our mom shared when they did this." I'm like, "That was already 20 years ago." Like, and then the one project I'm working on actively right now when we were doing the bidding, and they're great, and we're in the project now. It's going very well. The contractor's great. They actually picked the most expensive contractor out of it, which, hey, that's cool. But there was, like, all of this, like, "Oh, my grandparents were sharing what they did," and I'm like, "Why are we listening to them? Like,
No,
why
yeah.
are we listening to" and they're like, "Oh, I guess we're just hearing all this noise from other people and all this," and I'm like, "I'm I just nobody is trying to pull one over on you. You've seen multiple bids, and they're all not wildly different from one another. So, I don't know what that issue is. I can't help you solve
I
that
can't build a time
awkwardness.
machine.
I can't do
And
it." So that is
and just
awkward, but I
and what
just
level of construction? Like, somebody could
I
have
know.
a
The quality.
contractor, yeah, that's just doing whatever, shopping at Home Depot, you know,
I know.
$3 tile. Like, you could do stuff for less, but yeah, it's not something you should involve a designer in if you need to cut your budget. Like, that's spend it you're gonna need to spend that money on something else.
Right. So that I'm not gonna say it's getting less awkward. I would just say the awkwardness isn't absorbed by me anymore to have
Y
that realization with them,
Like, you're having those conversations a lot earlier.
and they're the ones who have to absorb the discomfort to use, like, my therapy stuff is, like, when someone
Yeah.
is the one who has to do the learning or the changing or the rethinking, I'm not the one who needs to absorb the discomfort.
Mm.
They need to sit with the discomfort and rethink their process and maybe research more. Like, it has that level of discomfort is supposed to be there to push change or reassessing things. If they don't feel uncomfortable by it, they're not going to come back and go and just agree to spend more money with me. They have to go through that process sometimes. And some people do it faster and some people do it slower. Like,
Yeah, like, I've had a client recently who was told estimate by an
oh,
architect,
yeah.
and they got contractor bids, and it was double plus, and that was, I don't know, irresponsible architect. Like, I don't even know if you're not really boots on the ground, like, don't even give numbers because the client is planning, like, especially at the architect level, like, they just decided to add on to their house based on this. But her response was like, "I just need a minute. Like, we're still gonna do it, but I'm just pissed." So, like, I just need
What
to
did they
work
think
through
it
it.
was gonna cost?
I can't remember right now. I think he told them 2 and the bid was like early bid was like 350.
I mean, it's not even a that's
I
not
guess that's not
it's a
anything.
lot, but it wasn't a massive home remodel at that price point either.
They were adding a couple bedrooms onto
Up above.
upstairs, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty I feel like okay, so that's not the first time I've heard that because you know about my one project where they said our all-in they told the architect initially, "Our all-in number on this, finishes, materials, your fees, whatever, whatever," and they, like, backed into this number was, like, I think we were at, like, 4 to 450. He and then the bids came back like, I'm separately still dealing with this with that architect because it's really frustrating for me, for the client. This one's been a long ongoing one, y'all, but it came back over 700 just for the construction without the finishes budget, without and it was
Yeah,
massive.
that
And
wasn't for any
and,
finishes
like,
either.
the whole foundation is basically being redone, most of the load-bearing walls, because they were also adding a second story, and I kept saying so early on, I'm like, "I still think this is overbuilt, this is overbuilt, this is overbuilt," and I think what it came down to, quite honestly, is that in that one got kinda tense, I'm not gonna lie, so talk about awkward. Client has never been upset with me. They've been frustrated with the experience and what's going on, but never upset with me directly. But there have definitely been we feel like we were really clear and we were very specific and we were relying on the expert. And we feel like
They did
that,
the right thing.
like, we should have been able to rely on this architect. And he's not a new architect by any means. It's like 20 plus years. And it just seems really foolish. And, he's blaming it on, oh, cost of materials and everything's gone up so much from when we first met each other. And it's like, yeah, but that's your job. Like, your job is, if we're not full on into construction drawings yet, tell us already, hey, you guys overshot by 30%. You overshot by 40%. Like, don't, but it can't be double. It can't be
Right.
double off. Like, that means he was significantly off from the beginning. And that's the part that he hasn't wanted to accept or hasn't demonstrated that I have seen or heard a responsive sense of responsibility for that. And he, has been compensated very fairly, much more than I have been to be doing. Like, I'm making like an hourly. I have a solid retainer with them to cover this sort of consulting before we actually have drawings kind of phase. So I'm not making a ton of money, you know, like at this
Yeah.
point. But he's definitely paid some college tuition for his kids with that money. Like, it's a significant amount of money.
So did you have any awkward conversations with him?
I had one with him, this was a couple months ago, but I said, I just have to warn you, like, I think that they may be looking at pursuing some form of recourse over this because there is a sense that maybe this hasn't been done in good faith, that the numbers have not aligned for a very long time, and that even with the numbers you said you were using, it still comes over. Which that's kind of his mistake of saying, "Well, I was operating off of these numbers."
Hmm.
And they went back and, like, they can calculate the per square foot cost and go, "Yeah,
Yeah.
those still came over, so why were you using that number? Like, how come you didn't stop us any earlier?" And I don't feel bad for him, I just think it's really I don't think he did anything malicious, but for them, it's really frustrating because they paid tens of thousands of dollars for really beautiful, well-executed plans that can never be built for their budget.
Right.
So, I feel really frustrated for them, and it's still playing out to where he gave of some of his time to look at, like, a very pared back version of that, of like, "Okay, well, let's just say we're only gonna do 1 story, what can we do with your house?" And they talked about maybe putting, like, a small kind of, like, mother-in-law's apartment or something on top of the garage, so that way that would be 2-story, and they would limit how much foundation and work they have to do. And even that was still coming in with other changes in the house at the same time with the kitchen and whatnot. We were still already breaking 500, like,
Yeah.
there's kind of no way to do what they're trying to accomplish anymore for the number they originally started with, unfortunately. Like, they're not gonna get for 450 grand, they're not gonna get a fully furnished house with all new finishes and materials and an addition of any kind. They're not gonna get they're not getting they're not getting a pool, they're not getting, like, new landscaping, like, they're not really getting any win, and I think that's what hurts the most for them, is to feel like this is a lot of money that we're a big number we're talking about, but we're not getting a lot of wins for that money.
Right.
And they're easily in any version of this, they're losing a lot of money on a lot of foundation work, a lot of structural work, a lot of stuff, a whole new roof that is like,
Yeah.
well, you already have a roof, so you're just paying again for it. And that's eating a really significant portion of their budget. So, where are we at now with the awkwardness? It's essentially at the architect is like, this, look, I'm happy to work with you on something, but you are going to have to pay me if I rework this. And I'm kind of stuck there with I can talk you through some ideas, but, like, I'm really wary of I do not want this. I wouldn't have the same team around these clients.
Yeah.
And that part is and it is awkward because they've waited so long to get to this phase and spent so much money and still not, it feels almost like they were bled dry a little bit.
Well, yeah, and there's nothing to show for it, and the awkwardness is, like, what there's no good choice.
Yeah. There's nothing and they obviously what I do like about them is that, like, they really love the home and the area, and they love the community they're in, and they look at other new builds or big stuff that's down in, like, South County and whatever in Orange County. They don't love that. They don't want that, which I appreciate because
Yeah,
I don't love the lack of character or life in those places. So I appreciate that they are sticking to the vision and not just like, "Well, I guess we gotta land in a 5,000 square foot house in Irvine then just to have square footage." Like, they want to live in a space with character, they want it to have personality and feel like it reflects them, and a lot of other families would just give up and go to, like, the new construction thing just to have space, you know?
right,
So, I'm not that part has been really awkward, I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like no matter what, they never had a dream plan in front of them, no matter what. There was
right.
never a version of a plan that was like, "Well, this one's 800 grand, but it's everything you wanted." They still never even had that. So, that feels particularly hard to deal with.
Yeah, and there's only so much, like, early conversations we can even have, like,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not throwing out any numbers for remodels like that, like, I have no idea.
It's wild.
Like, someone you just have to know someone just has money, and then it's just a matter of how much they wanna
I
spend
know.
and to get what they want, like, but they have it. But when people, like, are normal and have real limits,
Yeah,
um, that's hard when, like, it's maybe a matter of, like, you can't do anything. You get nothing.
yeah. And that's where this one kinda sucks, and I won't say it's not weird, it is weird. I'm just like, well, I'm glad they're not mad at me personally. I'm glad I'm not the one who had to justify what you paid me and all of that and pass that around, like, thank God that's not on me.
Like, that you didn't do too much work early.
Yeah, yeah, they haven't paid for something that they won't get from me. But it does feel awkward. It feels like a miss, and I'm disappointed for them, and I don't know that in this case there was too much more I could have done proactively because I've learned so much more now than I knew previously. So, I could help
Yeah,
another client not have to experience this again by reading like, having a few more warning signs,
with the
but
architect.
yeah, but I feel like I had to go through this, unfortunately, which is probably not what a lot of hotties wanna hear. Is sometimes you have to go through it.
But it's also like, how are we supposed to even know if they know what they're talking about?
Well, I'm I'm gonna,
I mean, I
po
guess you could
af
bring a contractor in early and have them get their eyes on it because 'cause they'll know if it's a
yeah.
$400,000 project versus an $800,000
Yeah,
project.
like, looking back on this one, like, before it went to I would say probably once it was at a concept level, before there was even a whole lot of structural drawn or before it went to the engineer even,
Yeah,
I think you could have put that plan in front of a contractor
yeah,
after the architect got it to like "Hey, this looks like a decent floor plan and elevation. Let's have someone look at it and just give us a rough go over."
or, "Can I do this for $400,000?" Like,
Yeah,
that's my budget.
right. So if that had happened, it would have stopped us a lot sooner, which is probably honestly what needed to happen a little bit is realize, "Oh, that's already too expensive. Let's kind of come back to it a little bit." And I think
Or
they probably should have.
yeah, or it's getting too close, like, there's not even a contingency that makes sense, like
Exactly. And so that would have prevented some of it. It would have solved everything, but it definitely would have helped. It would have
they
helped.
wouldn't have spent as much on
Yeah, they might not have paid
planning.
the engineer. They might not have gone forward to paying an engineer to do all that
Right.
work and still have to pay his fee knowing that it wasn't gonna be anything. So that was awkward and still continues to be awkward, to be very honest, because that's still developing.
Well, you also
So,
just kind of feel their discomfort in general, like, and disappointment.
I mean,
That's
yeah,
hard to absorb.
it shouldn't have been like that, is the short version.
Hey, designers. In our jobs, we wear a lot of hats, but there is a big difference between having ideas and then the reality of actually putting these ideas into practice.
Yeah, totally. That's why when we developed the tools that worked for our businesses, we wanted to share them with other designers so they could grow too.
And since we're all busy, we made sure everything was ready to use to save you time.
And our templates include expertly crafted copy that can get you started when you're trying to write the right words for all your clients.
Yeah, so we didn't write your bio because we can't, but things that are process oriented, we have all that written out for you.
Right. And we wanted to keep everything in a price point that's very accessible to designers of all levels because we really believe that everybody should be able to afford to streamline their business and make it better.
So if you're a first time visitor, you get 10% off on our shop at shop.hotyoungdesignersclub.com. So I think something that I've really worked on is to just give information, not over explain, and just be kind of quiet.
Let them
You
sit
know?
with it. They have
Yeah.
to sit with their discomfort about being surprised about a price or whatever. Like,
Or like, don't assume it's going to be uncomfortable because it's uncomfortable for me. So, like, tell the story of your, like, it was in our newsletter last month or in September, I think, but the story of your
my
pharmacist.
pharmacy
If people
experience.
don't read our newsletter, but if
Oh
you
my God. Yeah.
don't, you should sign up for it
It's in the
on our
recap.
website.
It's in our blog recap. So if you didn't get the newsletter and you want to go back and read it, but yeah, I got like, it's the, this I'm at the pharmacy and the pharmacist is like, "Oh." So anyway, I'm going on vacation in December. I need to have it's a typhoid vaccine, but it's not covered by my healthcare because it's not a required vaccine in the United States. I'm going to travel to a place where it's recommended to have it. So, yeah, I'm going to get the vaccine. I'm going to make sure that I have it. I have to pay out of pocket, blah blah blah. But there was all this tribulation at the register, and I'm like standing there in silence, and they're looking stuff up, and they're like, "Oh, looks like this isn't covered by your insurance." And, "Oh, okay, well, give me a second, I'll be right back." And then she's gone. The pharmacist is gone for like 10 more minutes. I'm standing there. It feels like forever. I was definitely there more than 30 minutes. So that
Okay, that's
sucked.
a lot. Yeah.
It was really not great. And then comes back and, "Okay, so this isn't covered." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, but so how much does it cost? Like, what are we I don't even know. What is
Oh
it?"
no, she started going at you with a coupon. She was trying to
Oh,
find a
oh,
coupon,
that
right?
was the other part. Like, yeah, she's like, "Well, I might be able to help with something." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So now I'm on this like Walgreens app and she's like, "Okay, go to this and put in this code and do this and put this in. Okay, let me scan that." And then she's scanning it and I'm like, "What are we talking about here?" Like, y'all, I don't have that. See, this is how I do. I know it wasn't even an important number to me. If you were like, "Hand to God right now, tell me how much it was," I could not tell you because it was that insignificant of a number for me to not even remember what it
It
was.
was 150, I think you said.
It maybe, but
It
to
was like
me,
less money than you standing there for an hour.
I spent almost that much filling up my car last time. Thank you, California gas prices. Like,
Right.
I so for me, the awkwardness, it was their awkwardness because
Yeah.
as the client, as their customer, can you just tell me what I'm gonna have to pay and we don't have to go all through this anxiety and you going back and forth and talking to another pharmacist and a coupon and I'm so sorry. I wish there was more I could do to
Making me
help. And
download a fucking app.
oh my God. And like just like shut up and take my money, like waving bills in your face. Like, please just tell me
Like,
what.
I'll pay 200 if you give me that 30 minutes back.
But that's so I will say this in fairness, if you read the newsletter or you're hearing this now, I understand. I'm in a very fortunate situation where that amount of money doesn't concern me and doesn't bother me. And I recognize that there are patients who are on fixed incomes or retirees and paying out of pocket for a medication, even paying that $20 copay is a lot for someone. I recognize that that is the case. The difference is we need to lead with the, well, what is the thing we have to be worried about? instead of creating the worry in advance of it, we can just tell someone, "Hi, your insurance doesn't cover this. It costs this much.
Right.
Do you wanna look at solutions? Is
Is
this
there a
even
reaction?
possible?"
Yeah.
Yeah. And so relating it to what we do is I do think that we let our own money stories build up and get in front of the way we communicate with our clients, and we stop ourselves because we think a $10,000 sectional is very expensive.
Right.
But if that person has bought a 10,000 sectional before, or they're looking at other brands online that they admire before they're working with us and they've seen a $20,000 sectional, ours now feels very reasonable. Or they might
To
think it feels cheap. What's wrong with it? Like,
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot of ways that clients are looking, like, a lot of them have already mentally spent the money, like, they have a number in their head
yeah,
of what these things cost. So, yeah, maybe they've done
true.
research, maybe they have things in the past that they've purchased, and we just need to give them the number, and then if there needs to be a solution afterwards, then that's what we're here to do.
Right.
But yeah, I think what's so annoying is, like, watching this song and dance and this, like, hemming and hawing and the hand wringing when
Oh my
and the
God.
anxiety, like,
Yeah.
she was, like, projecting a lot of anxiety on you,
Right.
and that's one thing in, like, a Walgreens, but if we're providing a luxury service to people, we just need to tell them what things cost and educate for that. Like,
Right.
I'm not marking things up to cost more than they're worth. And there
Right.
are a variety of price points of things that I offer to fit budgets, function, need. Like, oh, I don't really care about that room, so let's just put some made to, ready to wear chairs over there.
Right.
So I we just need to have a transaction. I think it's like in that case, like be transactional because it's just
This is a transaction.
customer service.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they're expecting this when they go and they shop retail. And they go buy anything, the price is on it.
But
Like,
if you start like sweating, like people are gonna think you're shisty.
yeah,
Like,
like, what are you doing? What's wrong with this? Like, why
are
can't you
you
tell me?
cheating me? Like, why are you so weird?
And I think and that's something that takes a journey to get to of realizing this isn't my money. Like, I don't need to care up front. I need to be respectful and mindful if they've shared budgets with me and if they've shared some of that. But if they haven't, I just need to tell them what they're describing and say, "This is what you're talking about. I'm hearing a number like
This is
this."
like
Like,
the value I think is appropriate for your house and where
yeah.
you what you
Or
say
you
you want.
like, you told me you wanna have a sofa that lasts more than 20 years. I'm just letting you know that's gonna be this number or above for sure. Does that freak you out? Should we reassess? Like, it doesn't have to be awkward because people are allowed to say no. We're not forcing them. We're not putting a knife to them saying, "Give me all your money." Like, they can tell us no. They're still in control. I think is the part that gets lost in this is just because you say something doesn't mean they have to do it.
No,
Like, they
and
have complete
definitely they're not
control.
going to.
They don't have to write you a check. You're not gonna steal it from their bank account, so they're in complete control of the design process.
Yeah, and also I think if clients aren't as educated, but they're wanting to have a nice home,
Mhm.
they are relying on you to tell them what this should cost.
Yeah,
So you need to find like the appropriate levels for them and
agreed.
educate why. Like, okay, you're telling me you love rugs, like you love these beautiful
Hand
rugs that are gonna
woven.
last a lifetime. This is what they're gonna cost.
Mhm.
Does that freak you out or not? Like, I've definitely done that. And people who see the value in it are like, "No, that makes sense. I'm gonna have this rug for the rest of my life." And
Yeah,
it's 100 times more beautiful than the fast fashion polyester, throw it away and fill a landfill in 2 years.
right, which that still will exist.
And I still put those in homes in certain situations. Like, sometimes it's just
That's
that
what you
just
do.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. And I think it's like so this is also where I think our budget calculator comes into play.
Yeah.
I had a new client recently who he filled it out and he's like, "Yeah, I think I kind of it all made sense," but he's like, "God, there was a $12,000 armchair on there. Like, what in the hell is a $12,000 armchair?" I'm like,
Let me
"Well,
show you.
it's definitely not that hard to get there,
No.
but we're definitely like we're not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to present a $12,000 armchair to that like what we were doing in this house."
Sure. But you didn't force him to click the box for that.
And he didn't. But it's on there so that people know like this is a possibility. Like 4,000 is not a high
I mean, it's
max.
part of equally, it's part of like when I see part of that is from a salesmanship perspective or salespersonship perspective. It's the idea that more expensive things and upgraded things and better things and all those things exist. And for many
Right.
people, they're not going to go in and buy the small or the medium. They might be the large, extra large, super combo add on a thing type of person.
Collector's item.
Yeah. Or they are just, look, let's just be real. A lot of people, especially in a luxury industry like we're in, they want permission to spend money on something. But if we don't give them that and show them what exists, they're going to go spend it on something else. I'd rather they spend it with me. I'd rather I have the opportunity to say, if they're just like, I've always wanted this freaking amazing, beautiful, artistic, sculptural light thing that I saw in a magazine once and I really thought it was wicked and I'm willing to spend just a fuck ton of
Because it's
money on it.
art and like
Like,
it becomes art in their home.
and if that's what they want, my job is to acknowledge that that exists, that it can be done, that it is possible, and that I can give that to them. And maybe for like your first project with someone, they don't pick that stuff. But because you open their mind and show them the quality, the craftsmanship, and the difference between some of these things, they may
Yeah.
move towards that stuff. It's probably incremental. Like, the way I live right now is leaps and bounds above the way that my parents lived. Like I
Yeah.
mean, I have bougie taste now, but like I didn't get that overnight. I got that because I learned about different things and I grew an appreciation for different things. And you start liking something that's a little better or more complex. It's just like we're all still not eating mushed peas when we were like 1 year old, right? Like the dish changed and the things our clients like changes because they get introduced to new flavors and new ideas by
And
us.
they prioritize things differently too. Like we
Yeah.
had a hottie hangout where one of the designers was talking about a client was looking at some pillows from Amber Interior's store.
Oh, yeah.
All of her stuff is beautiful, beautiful fabrics, like it's all well made. But the
Yeah.
pillows were $500 and the designer said, "Oh, I can we can find an alternative that I can have made with my workroom and it won't be that much." And the client was like, "No, I want to have a Amber Interiors store
Uh-huh.
branded pillow." And she's like, "Okay," because that was important to her for
So here it
whatever
is.
reason.
Here you go.
She probably left the price tag on it.
So everyone can see it. But it's like that's why like the logo life of it all. Like yeah, sure, wear your Gucci belt. Like
But that's
some
also like
people want to see it.
I would not like I have expensive taste on things and I like very nice things, but I wouldn't assume people care about pillows all the time, even though it's pretty easy to make a $500 pillow, TBH.
I mean, yeah. When the fabric is like 300 something a yard or whatever,
And
like
you have to buy 2 yard minimum and
yeah.
so I I find that putting spots in my process where I have to talk money and scripting things out sometimes, like maybe have email templates that you write that like this is where when you're going to bring this back in again. Our procurement guides have a place where we talk about money, percentages of like freight costs and all of that. Like it's you got to do it often and if you don't know how to bring it up, you can do it in your materials and let that do some of the work for you, especially early so clients know what they're getting into.
Yeah, because it's just I'm I don't know. I'm still so tired of talking about it, but I know I'm never gonna stop talking about it. So
About about what?
about money, about
About
budgets, about like this is literally built into everything we do, every step of the way. Every time we do a design presentation, you can show them the most beautiful tile, but yeah, at some point you have to tell them, are we buying 10 square feet of this or 1,000? Tell me what, like, tell me the number. And so that's why we put together this. And I don't know if a lot of us, I don't know how many designers got into this realizing they were going to have to be preparing such complex budgets and thinking so far ahead on numbers. So that probably leads to a lot of the confusion from clients because they didn't get into it thinking about a lot of this either. That's why they brought us in, was to help them with that.
Yeah, and I do think we have to also familiarize ourselves with so many different brands and price points, and this is where
Yeah.
going to market really helps, because once you start seeing numbers on things, you do start to acclimate
Yeah.
to different numbers where
Oh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm not gonna spend $12,000 on a chair for my own personal house, but I see the beauty in it and I see the craftsmanship and
Oh my
I know
god,
why
yeah.
it costs that much, and it's not just uncomfortable for me to live in the world of it
Oh,
anymore.
yeah, you go look at, like, a Baker piece of furniture, and you're like, "I get it.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be in my house, but I get it." Like,
or like a collector's item designer piece that there's only a few left in the world, like, it's just I don't know. So I think you have to not just live in your own budget world. Like, if you're
yeah.
still shopping at Target and West Elm, like, a lot of us pop in there, like, there's nothing wrong with that, but that you have to, like, change your awareness of what designer level things cost.
Yeah, because someone else is out there and they're doing their, like instead of buying, like, a camisole at Target, they're buying it from Neiman Marcus, you know? Like, that's an
Yeah.
audience of person. They don't need to, but they could, like
And it's, like, the same thing with hotels, like, I've leveled up a lot in my hotel tastes,
yeah, me too, yeah.
and before, like, in college, I barely even would stay at a hotel, like, whose couch can we crash on would be the mentality. Then, like, you get
Oh.
into paying for 'em,
Oh,
and now
man.
you're like, there's a level that I don't wanna go below, like, I'd rather just stay home.
Yes.
So, your clients have done that, your clients are living in a more luxury world,
Wait,
most
what was the
likely.
first hotel you stayed at in Las Vegas?
Like,
When you're, like
ever?
yeah, like, when you're, like, a 20 something, right?
I mean, I know I think I stayed at the Sands before they imploded it.
Okay, so it was a little bit long in the tooth at that point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and my first one was the Excalibur, which is fortunately still standing, so you can see an example of how rough it is and has been for a long time. Like
I
and
think
there were
the
5 of
last
us in a hotel room, 5
I
of my
think the
friends,
last
like
bad hotel I stayed in was with you.
which one? Oh, that one in High Point. Oh, yeah,
There's limitations on
that one was
availability.
that was a one night only, wasn't it? Because we
One night,
one
yeah.
night only. We had to do that because the hotel we wanted didn't have that extra night, so we stayed
It wasn't gross or dangerous or anything, but it was like, "Oh, this
no,
is
it
not
wasn't like a by the hour type of place, but I
this is
mean,
not, like, the finish level that I like." These
like the
aren't my
carpet, you know that feeling? This is how I know it's like not a great place is when the carpets kind of roll as you walk on them because they're not attached to the floor anymore, like they just kind of are
Ew.
undulating. That to me is the sign of like a hotel that needs a lot of attention and work.
Or when the shower is an insert and not
Oh yeah, it's like
tiled.
a fiberglass thing. Yeah, we won't be doing that again.
But that so, I
I
don't
would
know,
never
if you
stay like that anymore.
I guess it's just, like, if you can relate, then think about yourself in that situation,
Mhm.
and you don't need to justify to anyone why you are willing to pay for that. So, it's like, get yourself in that mindset of like, "Oh, yeah, I like a hotel, that's nice. I
Yeah.
this is what it costs, because you're just transactional about it. It's worth it.
There's nothing you did to affect that.
No, and it's worth it. So flipping that to when you're selling things to clients that seem out of your league or your personal comfort zone, that's how they feel about it.
Yeah, because you've had a lot of clients lately telling you, "Oh, really? That's not that bad. Oh, that was it?" Like,
Yeah,
you've had multiple proposals recently where they're like, "Oh."
because they already
Like,
knew kind of what to expect. Like, and we'd had conversations about what level of quality they wanted, and
mhm.
that, and they knew. So they were kind of having mental calculations going. So
Yeah. And most of
they
them
don't want
thought
cheap
it would be
stuff. Like, they don't.
more.
Yeah, right. I mean, okay, it can be. Let's do more.
Let's
But
do more.
they care about what it looks like and feels like, and is this going to last? Like, that's
Like, if they're gonna spend it, they wanna spend it right and spend it one time and not agonize
and
as much
love
as,
it.
like, and you're gonna spend if you kinda like something for $1,000, but you know you'll love it for 2, a lot of people will pay 2.
Yeah, you
And
should.
I was agonizing over a couple materials with clients on another project just last week, and then we were looking at, like, okay, but here's your putting your tile order stuff, like, getting all of this stuff together, and I was like, "This is gonna be a lot." And I put it in front of them, and they're like, "Alright, done." And I was like, "Y'all are surprising me right now." And they were like, "We've just decided we're gonna be very decisive. We don't wanna be in the way of progress. That's what we're doing. It's good for us to do it this way," like, as a married couple, like, this was a decision they made. The dollar amount was not the consideration. The consideration was, what is the best way to decide this for our relationship, for our family, to not create disruption with one another? And it's like, we like this, we want it, it happens to be expensive. It's not expensive enough to justify arguing
Going
over the
back,
price or fighting over it or
finding
whatever.
something new,
That and
starting over.
that's where you really start to see the value proposition change for someone individually. Is like, money is not the thing I'm going to argue over at this
But
point.
let's be clear, that's with clients that have some wiggle room in their financials.
Sure. Yeah, they're choosing to invest like this, and I didn't bring them anything that was like out of the realm as far as like, is this unreasonable that I'm putting this in front of? There was nothing that was unreasonable or out of
Ludicrous.
line.
You
Like,
didn't go to ludicrous speed?
Luda. Um, I didn't do
It
anything
was
like
like
that.
$200 a foot or something.
So that's why I don't feel bad, because I feel like I am aligned with the things that they like and are okay spending money on. And they have decided also, if we like it and it's what we want, it just happens to be the price is a little shocking. We're going to decide just to keep on rolling because we don't want to be frustrated about that.
And I always too think about, I know I say this a lot, just like the value of it.
Mhm.
Does it look like the price point? Like, we were talking recently about
Yeah.
a handmade tile company made here in California that we love,
Yeah.
but it adds up. Like, the price point
It
is
sure does.
definitely higher than your average big distributor,
Correct.
but it's made to order, it's handmade, but also, and there's a lot of like story into the company, but you pick up a piece of their tile and you see
The difference.
the beauty of it, and that will translate into the home. So it's not just picking something to be expensive like RH or something where there's a name tag, a name brand attached,
Some
but there's
people
not
will want
value.
that though. Some
But they
people
only
do.
but that all they're getting with that is the brand
Right.
versus something that's actually handmade, actually takes care of their people, actually has unique customization properties, like whatever it is.
Right. It'll
So there's
fulfill more needs than just the need for a brand name.
it's worth it. Like, is it worth it? And that's something like I try to bring to my projects is like, I don't think this is worth going crazy in this area. So
Yeah.
let's dial it down.
Yeah. To quote Missy Elliott, is it worth it? Let me work it.
Right.
But,
Yeah, no, it's
she's a
true.
philosopher of our time.
She really is. Her and Luda.
Oh, man. This is good. I'm glad we started having these conversations, though, because I do think it's a barrier for a lot of designers, and it stops them from making progress and growing their projects. And it can be a really limiting belief that we have to find ways to get past.
And just like the last point I'll quickly make is the more you do it, the easier it gets. Like my daughter is 10 and she says she has stage fright, like it's a medical condition that she was born with. And I keep telling her, like, okay, yes, you're nervous when you have to be in front of people, but that's totally normal. And the only way to get through it is to do more of it.
Yes.
And then you aren't as much. So just make it common practice, get that muscle memory, get your this doesn't affect me face happening, and just be willing to help because you are helpful.
This is what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's have an awkward ending.
Yeah, an awkward. Okay, you guys, I'm sorry. This has been great, but you all have to go. So until next time.
Stay hot, designers.
Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.